Okay, people, it's time for Hayley's Comments, one of my favorite segments of the day, as we get to talk about headlines. And boy, do we have some headlines. Hayley, where are we starting?
Jumoke, it's been a busy week, both good and bad. We're going to start in Europe, even though I'm coming to you from Asia. We're talking about the Messi situation getting a little messy. And I know this is a little personal for you because you got to meet Lionel Messi. He's one of your heroes. You met him at a Wizards game. How do you feel about everything that's going on in Barcelona?
You know, it's crazy because I have three brothers. We each have a different favorite team. And my youngest one, who we mess with all the time, he's a Messi fan. So he's kind of sad because we've been kind of bashing him. But the crazy thing is I'm really a Ronaldo fan. So when I met Messi, it was like, this is actually kind of cool. And then I had a personal connection with him. So it was, I've become a Messi fan over the years. I mean, he is arguably the greatest soccer player of all time. And he's made probably the biggest announcement that is shattering the sports world globally. And then following that was Black Lives Matter and postponement of games. But this is a little more of a lighthearted topic. But Messi leaving Barca is huge. Huge.
Honestly, if he wants to sneak away in any way, shape, or form, now is the time to do it.
Yeah, right? Yeah, it's like, okay, there's enough other things going on that I can just say, hey, I'm out of here. Apparently, he's going to talk in the next day or two because he wants to get his statement out, which is understandable because everybody's got their own theories of where he's going and why he's leaving. And Messi just has to come out with his own statement to let people know what he's going to do.
All right, where do you think he's going to go?
Sad to say, I think he is going to lead towards Manchester City if they can afford the like $800 gazillion transfer that he's asking for. But I think with Pep being the head coach there, they have a connection. It's my brother's favorite team. That's probably where he's going, no doubt. Man City. If I got to bet on it, I'm saying he's going to Man City.
You know, some crazy fans on Twitter are fantasizing that he's going home to Argentina. I think they're a little out there in outer space, but can you imagine?
I cannot imagine, but what I know that not many people imagine is when the Argentinian soccer team came to what was then Verizon Center, and no one really in the arena understood soccer. They didn't know how big he was. Hayley, when I tell you the team was in a suite, the team could not leave the suite by the end of the game. The concourse was filled with fans. Everybody wanted to see Messi, Sergio Aguero. The entire team was in this suite. It took an hour and a half of sitting in the suite after the game for them to say, you know what, we're going to have a security person at every vestibule, right? So people can't get in the bowl. And the Argentinian soccer team had to climb over the glass out of the suite, not through the door like most fans do. They climbed over the glass, had to walk down the arena, onto the court, around the locker room to get out. Well, by then, the Wizards players were excited. Nene, Otto Porter are big soccer fans. So then, if you can imagine, I'll post a video. You'll see it right here. Messi and the guys were playing soccer with the basketballs. They were playing on the court, and Nene and Otto were like – Otto was just stunned that Messi was standing right in front of him and talking to him. But it was the single greatest moment of basketball and soccer coming together, two of the greatest sports worldwide on this big stage, having some, private time together, talking sports. And it was just amazing to be there with the camera and capture it all.
And Nene was that FIFA fanatic. I remember that. That must have been huge for him. I remember you walking off our set. People said, where are you going? Okay, and you just casually said, I have to go interview Messi. What?
The greatest day in my life for soccer, outside of getting to see Chelsea and Didier Drogba playing in his first game in Pittsburgh, Chelsea AS Roma. There you go.
Jumoke, this is a tough one. We need to pivot in a very serious direction. The world and the sports world in particular have been just shaken by yet another act of police brutality against a person of color. Jacob Blake is fighting for his life in the hospital after being shot 7 times in the back in front of his children by police in Wisconsin. Jumoke, this has been a crazy summer. The activism has been reinvigorated by this latest act of police brutality, and there's chatter from both sides, but for the most part, it seems that the sports world has fallen on the side of justice, and the NBA postponed boycotting. I would say they're striking from their games because semantics, but they're not the consumers here, so they're not performing in light of this act of police brutality here. And Jumoke, we're also seeing these demonstrations be stretched across professional sports. MLB is taking a big stand, 3 games postponed. How significant is this when you hold it up against the Black Lives Matter displays that we've seen throughout this summer?
I think it's huge. And I think that if you want to talk about foresight, this is exactly what the players didn't want to have happen when they went into the bubble. This is that worst case scenario. Outside of the pandemic, their biggest concern was if we go into this bubble and something else happens, what are we going to do? In this case, the players had no choice. I mean, you see the tweet, shout out to Michael Lee, where he talked about Giannis receiving a message from President Barack Obama saying, you got to be a leader. You've got to take a stand, and this is your time to take that stand. And this was back in February. So Giannis and the Bucks said, look, this is happening in our home state. We have to do something. And make no mistake, this is a player's decision. The team, the league, had to go along with it. This is the players. They control everything. And they may not have realized it back in the day 100%, back when Kareem Abdul-Jabbar was protesting the no-dunk rule because they were trying to level the playing field because Kareem was dominating, or Muhammad Ali saying, I'm not going to fight in the war and losing his heavyweight title. We can go for, all along history and find different moments that athletes took a stand. John Carlos, Tommy Smith. This is a stand. Bill Russell, boycotting when he wasn't served at a lunch counter, and the rest of the Celtics said, we aren't playing in the game. This isn't the first time it's happened. Yes, it is something that's happening now, so we think of it in the present moment as if, this is the first time, but no, it's not. And we have to do something. I love that, MLB, like you mentioned, MLS, the WNBA took a stand, the Mystics in their great video. Naomi Osaka, who's playing in a semifinal tennis match, posted online, I will not be playing. We have to do something, Hayley. And this is what the players can do, is protest games.
And like you said, this was not planned by the league. The league, the teams, the owners, they didn't know until the day of, but they truly were not given a choice. Now, the NBA is more ripe for displays of activism than any other league because of the star power, because of that really turbulent history when it comes to race relations. And you have superstars who have such a grand platform. And my favorite tweet from all of this actually came from John Wall saying, we're not going to just shut up and dribble anymore. And that's a response to, it started with Fox News, Laura Ingraham saying, LeBron needs to shut up and dribble and stop talking about Black Lives Matter. Well, John Wall, who I want to say he's mild-mannered compared to some superstar athletes, coming out and saying, we're not going to shut up and dribble. The NBA absolutely taking a stand, and this is a huge statement. We'll get into the business impact and, of course, the betting impact in just a little bit, and it's bleeding over. I don't want to take credit away from the WNBA and say it's bleeding over, because there are so many strong athletes on the women's side of things who are taking a stand as well. But NBA is leading the charge here. But then 3 games postponed in the MLB. Did you see that one coming?
The only reason why I said yes, I saw that coming is because this movement is beyond basketball. NBA, you could almost say that this is the black sport, right? More minorities follow basketball than the other sports. You know, one of the teams that protested and canceled their game were the Seattle Mariners, who have the largest number of African minority players on that team. But the key of why this is important in our lifetime and why sports, because sports is the last great live soapbox. Every night, if a player or team so chooses, they can speak out. They can stand up for something on a massive scale, right? An actor can't do that. You got a movie premiere, maybe. But if you're on a set, you know, I guess you can maybe walk off the set, but it doesn't have the same impact as something that's happening live. People are watching it or about to watch it. Something happens of this magnitude and the game ends. You have nothing else to watch. I am disappointed that the NHL continued to play the game, not because I don't understand. Yeah, you have playoffs, but you said you were all on this too. You said, oh, we care about Black Lives Matter too. You didn't have to be the first. But when all of the dominoes started to fall and the NHL said, well, we're still going to play. It's like, well, maybe Black Lives Matter doesn't really matter to you the same way. A news outlet can't be that way because as a news anchor, you're supposed to be objective, right? You're not supposed to have a voice that the same way. Sports is for the people to come together. No matter where you're from, religion, politics, race, everybody comes together, watch sports. And this is why it's the last great place to take a stand. And I want to take it one step further. There aren't enough minorities doing play-by-play sports. And so the Black athlete becomes even more important because what we do see as well, how often is it the white play-by-play person and the Black color analyst, and it's a former player? That's standard all the way back in the day. So it's made the Black athlete even more important today because they're the only ones who have a voice or have the majority voice, at least when it comes to basketball and in a little bit of football, right? And not so much in baseball, right? We can grow it and start expanding the sports. And we see, oh, the African-American voice actually is pretty small, right? Because in the end, people don't understand it. In the present and live Black Matters, we do not have a significant voice outside of basketball. And so you have white people pontificating on national, cable, regional sports network, blogs, different shows that now we want to have more of a voice. And so this is the only way to have a voice, is not just to speak out, even on our platform, but we need the athletes because like you mentioned, John Wall, you have the bigger athletes talking, then you'll get the other athletes who normally don't talk or speak out because they have the courage. They understand that, okay, I need to speak out because we need to have our own voice disseminating and deciphering the message, not so much someone who doesn't understand where we come from talking about it. That's why to watch Kenny Smith walk off a set, to hear Chris Webber talk about it, to hear the players, Donovan Mitchell, everyone talked about it. Michael Wilbon had some great messages. Doc Rivers, oh my gosh, we could go on and on for days. And he said the best message of all that I heard that stuck in my heart because of what I've been through too, is he said, it's amazing to me how we keep loving this country and this country doesn't love us back.
That's really surreal to hear you say, considering how much you and I work together. And, I feel for you and every other person of color in this industry. And I admire what you all have gone through and the adversity that you've faced. And we need to lift those voices. And like you said, there need to be more people of color in that position with a headset doing the play-by-play because those are the super fans, those are the experts, and kids are going to be at home watching. And of course they can aspire to be an athlete, but how many kids aspire to call a game? Tons. And so if they see someone who looks like them, they can say, oh, I can do that. Now I want to go back to the NHL because in my experience, Jumoke, I want to believe that it's a matter of proximity and exposure. And for white people, you can have the best intention and still not have that exposure and kind of not feel like you have permission to talk about the subject matter. And I know everyone needs to stand up for the most baseline human right, that we are all equal, but a lot of white people don't really know what to do with the subject matter. They don't know, the right verbiage to use. And so in baseball, you have a good amount of Black voices who are leading the charge, but I think in the NHL, that's what's lacking, is having people of color around you leading the way. And although it's everywhere on social media, in the news, in other sports, I think that proximity is kind of keeping a lot of the well-meaning white people from taking a strong stand there. And it's frustrating to see, and I don't know what it's going to take to get the league to kind of step over the doorstep and join the party. It's tough to watch, but like you said, athletes are making the biggest statement, because Chris Webber, I mean, he was in tears in his video on Twitter, Jumoke. I was tearing up. I had chills. Explaining that he has to explain to his godson why there's no basketball. I mean, kids are going to ask, why aren't we watching the game? And parents have to force those tough conversations and explain to their kids, or they may choose not to. And, that's their loss, because this is a perfect example for kids across the country and all over the world to learn here from their role models. So it's
in many ways, you know what, the thing is that that's because, similar to what LeBron James said too, Black Lives Matter for us is not a movement. It's a lifestyle. It's a reality. This is what we have to deal with every day. And to go back to the NHL, all you had to do was cancel the game. Cancel the games yesterday. You can play today. The NBA may not play today, but in solidarity, it was an easy decision to make. Zdeno Chara, great. Oh yeah, we're behind everybody. Black Lives Matter, but we're still going to play. No. If outside of saying, Hayley, because what you talked about is you don't know what to say, you don't have to say anything. You have to listen and react. You listened, you saw what the NBA did, you should have reacted and said, we will do the same. And everything would be fine. Instead, you didn't. And no one will forget that you did that. Don't stand up here and say, oh, I believe in Black Lives Matter, but we still want to play, right? You support the fight against racism and injustice, back to Zdeno Chara. But we're still going to play. That's what happened. That's the reality of what you did, what the NHL did. Because I want to put it on the players, because realistically, just like the NBA players made the decision, not the league, not the team, not the owners, the players did. The NHL players could have done the same, and they didn't. They didn't. It will not be forgotten.
Right. And remember, this all has massive financial implications. We got to talk about the business side of this, and we need to level the charge that maybe the NHL doesn't want to take the hit, that they could lose fans, they could lose viewers, which so many people who are opposed to Black Lives Matter are threatening on Twitter. I'm going to stop watching MLB. I'm going to stop watching the NBA. NFL players kneel. I'm not watching. Well, have they stopped watching? Because I'm pretty sure they're still chattering on Twitter. They're still screaming instead of listening. Are they going to lose fans? I don't know, but there's massive implications here on the financial side. Maybe that's why the NHL is towing the line. They're scared. They're putting money before human lives. But what are the financial implications that the NBA is dealing with here?
So it's in the beginning, before they were deciding if they were going to play, there was talk of, if we don't have any kind of season, we're talking about losing upwards of $650 million. And that's just on the player side. That's just from salaries and what they would get. The league, we're talking billions of dollars that can be lost by not playing. Sure, MLB is in a very similar situation. NFL, probably even way more than we're talking about the NBA dollars lost, MLS, WNBA, NHL. So yes, there is money to be lost. But I also have to remind everybody, the loss didn't start because of Black Lives Matter. That wasn't why the season stopped. That was a pandemic. Okay? Let's not forget that that's why we weren't playing, first and foremost. And I think that's getting lost in, we can't stop for Black Lives Matter. It was stopped because of the pandemic. And so now we're in a situation where it's like, okay, it's tough because even on, I'm text messaging with friends and people, and it's just like, there's no black or white here. It's hard to say who's right and who's wrong. Okay, let me back up a little bit for the financial aspect of it. So Tommy Smith and John Carlos, they protested during the 1968 Olympics. They put up their fists, right?
Mm-hmm.
Everyone thought it was for Black Lives Matter or the Black Power movement, okay?
Right.
It was for human rights, Hayley.
Mm.
All the other athlete, who was an Australian, was also wearing a human rights patch. He didn't put his hand up, but he was wearing a human rights patch. This was an additional thing that Tommy Smith and John Carlos did because, yes, there were issues, Black Power, that was a part of it. But we are talking about, in the end, human rights.
Mm.
No one should be shot in the back without a weapon in their hand that they were brandishing, and a police who they often say, well, I fear for my life. There's no way you fell for your life in that situation with Jacob Blake. You didn't.
We've seen the no way. No.
What are we doing here? And that's just one, police brutality. There are social inequalities as well, that was also a part of the conversation that we cannot forget. So the economic ramifications have a lot to do with it. But I think psychologically, with players in the bubble, hockey's in the bubble too, NBA's in the bubble, they're stuck. They can't go out and help protest and be a part of it. I guess Major League Baseball could. I think is very proud of the Major League Baseball, the players, especially the Milwaukee Brewers, also Wisconsin, standing up immediately saying, hey, we're going to stop.
Yeah.
Because it shouldn't be about money, Hayley. In the end, it doesn't matter what money we're talking about because no life is worthless. We don't have to get into priceless, but we can get into saying that no life is worthless. And that's what I feel like what happened with Jacob Blake. And the ramifications of that, yeah, it is billions of dollars because of some cops.
Enough is enough. Time to take a stand.
Yeah.
Okay, so surprise topic, somewhat related. I've got two of them for you today.
Okay.
One, we're going to start out with my personal hero. We both know her. I think we both love her, Natasha Cloud. She's sitting out this WNBA season. A lot of strong statements from her on social media. She's been making appearances. She's my personal favorite guard in all of basketball. Her voice is so loud, so strong, so wise. What do you think about her impact personally that she's been making?
I think it's amazing. I think it's courageous. For the longest time, I really was very critical of WNBA players not playing in the WNBA season. And not from there, for their sake, but I mean, they have to play year long. They're playing overseas. And when they come back here, they're not making nearly as much money as they made over there. And the players feel like they want it off season. But I think for Natasha, it takes a lot of courage to come off of an WNBA championship team and saying, I'm not going to play the fight for social justice. Like, that is the most courageous thing that anyone could do. I don't even think I could say, hey, I'm going to stop working and just do social justice reform unless someone was paying you for it. And so I hope, just like, Kyrie Irving saying he's giving money to WNBA players that are sitting out the season, I hope several people, several businesses, owners are going to step up and help Natasha. The Mystics, the powerful video of them wearing the T-shirts with the 7 gunshots in their back, each one of them wearing a different letter for Jacob Blake's name, going out on the court as if they were going to play and then not playing. I know Natasha played a hand in that. If not obviously not in person, maybe she called him and said, hey, this is what you have to do. Maybe she was the coach. Mike Tebow's the coach on the court. Natasha Cloud's the coach for social justice, telling the Mystics what to do and how to do it. And the players perfected the play to a T. And that's Natasha Cloud, being a cloud over everyone at this time. We need more Natasha Clouds, and she's going to do it.
Strong, and she's so young, and her voice is it's so articulate. She's incredible. Good point. She's the sixth man for the Mystics, guiding them towards social justice, pretty much. Okay, Jumoke, our surprise topic here. We talked about it last week, and I was so pleased to find out that you've been following Free Brittney, Brittney Gate, all of that. So for the past decade, Brittney Spears has been a prisoner in her own house. So many people are throwing these conspiracies around, like her father's controlling her, she's on these psychedelic meds. If you follow her on social media, it's nothing short of insane. She just posts these videos where it's like she's possessed and like she's talking and she's dead behind the eyes, and she's talking about how she burns down her gym in her home because she had candles lit. It's just so strange. Anyway, so her father was the conservator of her estate, and so he basically runs the show. That appointment from a judge expired. So she was pushing for, I think, for someone else to have control of her estate.
Yeah.
But since then, we have found out that Jamie Lynn Spears is a hero behind the scenes, it seems. The younger sister, Zoe 101, we were all upset with her when Zoe 101 got canceled. She got pregnant at 16, and the rest of us were 16, wondering how that even happened. So, little sis coming to save the day, Brittney Spears might be able to leave her compound soon. What do you think is going on behind the scenes?
I think it's madness. It really makes me sad, but
Yeah.
a great soap opera of what's going on between the dad and the sister. And, I heard the ACLU, they now want to get involved because, they think that people with disabilities, which they do think that Brittney falls under that they need support. And, if at least she's got Jamie Lynn, I hope Jamie Lynn can do something to give her, reinvigorate her life and let her come back out in public and, I don't know, maybe even resurrect her singing career. I just don't like to see people in this kind of state. And granted, when we did it last time, it's like, I have no idea. I had no idea what a conservatorship is. And, I also joked, and maybe I shouldn't have, I feel like my wife is kind of like my conservator, but I just
have a lot of good marriages.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Gotta run the show.
I just don't understand it. I guess I remember shaving her head, but I just don't know. I just didn't know it was this bad, that she's this.
Yeah.
What medications is she on? How is she going crazy? Or is it just like,
I don't know, but I want some to survive the rest of this year.
Maybe because I'm like, even, we talk about basketball. Paul George says that he's struggling in the bubble. I guess, maybe if you are stuck in your house and it's just you, you struggle mentally. Yes. You literally are talking to yourself.
She's had a parade of young boyfriends who fit the profile of everything from assistant around the house to personal trainer. So she definitely brings in her social life.
Yeah.
It is tough to watch. And you're right. When celebrities go through this kind of like tragedy on a personal level, we all feel like entitled to know everything, and we feel like it's our own and we can joke about it, but it is truly so sad. However, I am just happy and relieved for the cult following, the Free Brittney people, who just, their wheels are constantly turning, trying to figure out what's going on behind the scenes.
Yeah. I mean, it's just, I feel like even when we look at what's going on in our country with the president, we're thinking about Area 51 UFOs. I mean, who doesn't love a good conspiracy? And this falls in that. Like, oh my gosh, what's really going on? I just hope that we do get a reality show out of it if Brittney's okay with it. I mean, you got the perfect title, #FreeBrittney, and maybe even for an organization like the ACLU or Americans with Disabilities, ADA, maybe there's some way that they can shed a light on what's happening by turning this into a show. and bring awareness out. You know, maybe proceeds go to one of those organizations or another one that's, you know, deals more closely with what Brittney's going through.
Honestly, that's a really good call. And maybe the Props Network can take over production for it.
Hey, put bets on where Brittney's going to go out today. If she's going to go out today. That's what we'll do. We'll have a prop bet on that. Future bets. Thanks, Hayley. This has been another great segment of Hayley's Comments. We'll see you next week.
Always fun.
Bye.